She is a professor of creative arts and learning at Lesley University, which is how I know Danielle. We were colleagues there for a number of years together. And she also teaches in the Joyner Institute for the Study of War and Social Consequences summer writer workshop at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Her poems have been anthologized widely, and recent essays of hers have appeared in Others Will Enter the Gates, Immigrant Poets on Poetry, Influences, and Writing in America, and Anywhere But Here, Black Intellectuals in the Atlantic World and Beyond. She is the author of a volume of poems, Maroon, and she has a second book of poems, The Dear Remote Nearness of You, which will be published later this spring, so soon. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome up to the podium Danielle Legros Georges. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, for that lovely introduction. Thank you, MCLA. It's been great to be here. I've had a really nice afternoon with students and some faculty, and I'm really thrilled about this reading. As the Poet Laureate of Boston, I serve as an advocate for poetry, language, and the arts. I have several initiatives, some working with elders, some working with younger people. I think part of my role is to amplify the great poetic work that's already taking place in Boston. There are a bunch of poetic communities within Boston, the spoken word community, the performance poetry community, what I'll call the on-page community, people who call themselves community poets, people who are affiliated with academic institutions. So there's a lot of great literary activity in Boston, and I also think in Massachusetts. So we're in a great area for literature, and I'm really thrilled to help amplify the work. Oh my God, I'm a little nervous. I didn't expect to be. To help amplify the work, the great work that's being done. So I'm gonna read some poems for about 30 minutes. Does that work? And maybe somebody will tell me when I have 5 minutes remaining. Oh, I want to send a shout out to Professor Zach Finch and also Lisa Donovan. Yes, the snaps are in order. Only. Nature hides the most beautiful design, the norm, the anomaly, the rare, the rarest, which is to say, the only. And aren't we each twins even? Only? Titles of poems when I could not write poems. Sometimes, as a writer, I have writer's block. So maybe some of you writers can relate. So I write titles of poems. And I watch movies and I read a lot. A collection of hairballs from the drain of the author. Lectures by the minor gods. The objects of visual inquiry. The house is on fire. What poverty will do to you. The ellipses of love. My undying love for you and how it died. Some hog meat for Joe. Actually stole that from Sam Cornish, who is Boston's first Poet Laureate. Let's both pretend to be famous painters. Torpor, blossom. Evidence is evanescent. The purr of an agile cat. I write about race. It's one of my many subjects, but it's a recurring subject for me. This poem is entitled, "We Eat Cold Eels and Think Distant Thoughts." We eat cold eels and think distant thoughts, said American boxer Jack Johnson, glistening like a fish, to the newsman who asked him why white women were drawn to black men like him. What is it like to eat cold eels and think distant thoughts? What is it like to be a black man who eats cold eels and thinks distant thoughts? What is it like to be a black man who thinks to say, "We eat cold eels and think distant thoughts," to a white reporter, early 1900s America, who wishes to reduce him to meat, to red, to sexual? Once, in the Chicago Aquarium, a long time ago, I met an eel. I was told by the label on his large tank weighed 53 pounds and was 100 years old. It looked at me with such a fierce intelligence through the glass and silty water of its address. Its gray, bald head, almost human. Its two lidless eyes. Its small nose holes, and instead of a body below its head, no body, but a tail of fluid form, one great muscle behind ears that were not ears, but also holes. Its whole body beating a slow, chilled rhythm that kept it afloat. And a cool terror shot through me as it watched me watch it, as it followed me through the liquid wall that split our worlds and separated our species. Poem from the real world. I'm on Dorchester Ave when I hear it. Nigger. It's September 28th, 2004. And I haven't heard the word used this way in so long. I'm for some seconds stunned and simultaneously amused, in the way an archaeologist might be, coming upon the grotto of some long extinct tribe she's been studying for years to discover their swear words etched in the cave. And almost in the same moment, I say to myself, he's not talking to me, and keep walking. It's a temperate, lovely day, Indian summer asterisk for further study. Blustery, and it comes again,
nigger. And nigger comes creeping slowly from his coffin, fettered, measured, lynched and raped, reconstructed, redlined, incarcerated, deconstructed, and resurrected, though I would have preferred negress, more charming and belletristic, more gendered, but past the purpose and grasp of the wielder of nigger. But I digress, and return to the task of inscription with what is available to me, that is, language. There is no poetry here because there is no poetry here. I'm recording this to remind myself this wasn't an odd dream, the result of having watched one too many PBS documentaries on civil rights and race relations in the United States, of imagining a young Linda Brown crossing the train switchyard to school, Topeka, Kansas, 1952. I'm recording this to remind myself that this did indeed happen on September 28th, 2004, in Boston, my beloved Boston, Massachusetts, the United States of America. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and read a poem entitled Boston Backyard. I grew up primarily in Boston, and when I was a young person, my grandmother used to drag me along with her to an open-air market in Boston called Haymarket. And I think it reminded her of the open-air markets in Port-au-Prince and other parts of Haiti. You could get your vegetables, and you can get your meat, and you can get your live chicken. And my grandmother would procure this poor beast, stuff it into a pillowcase, and we would get on the train, the subway, with the creature in the pillowcase. And I was just trying to be cool, you know? I was just trying to be cool about it all. And we would get home, of course, and she would release the creature in the backyard, and before the inevitable occurred. Can you hear me in the back?
Yeah.
Okay. Boston Backyard. The image of the headless hen depends on the ring. My grandmother puts her hands on the thing. Is ginger. A simple dust rises from the yard. We've been playing too long inside and escaped to the porch. She'd not meant us to see the pale feathers pinking, the twisting this way and that of the run, the tree as it threatened the bird. My grandmother wipes her hands on her apron, which is blue with white buttons, and touches the dust to pick up the hen. She speaks but 2 words, which are soft, to the bird and to the wind. She sends 1 word of thanks. Remaining with the fowl theme. Hen, hen, hen. A dive from tree, from rock and rock, skipping like an aged heart chained to machinery. A running hum, the strum of a life cord plucked. Still feet, warm heart, cold feet, heart jumps rope, hope skips, a rocket's purr pierces twilight. Flight, the wind supreme, rooftops dreidling, blue-green marble worlds swallowed like pills. Pills. Pillbox church hats and steeple spires are dots from here. Keep the beam, not to drop, to bob, untethered, unrepentant. Look, Icarus rising. No, woman, metal-winged, flighty, hinty maybe, but flapping yet shaking off the chick bird tree. Cat calls fall flat to her, ear to wind, she hatched for speed, for cruise above the rooster's crow. Kukuru-kuru, don't want you anyway, they say, and puff it up, peck at plumes, fume. Well, hen. Sisters wing and work a thing, bring and gather band waists, croon. Make haste, flying lessons starting now. It was Valentine's Day on Sunday. It can be a wonderful day, it can be a terrible day. I thought I would explore the theme of love in a couple of poems. And love can take many forms. There's sort of love that's connected to spirituality. There's love, there's eternal love, romantic love, eros, romantic errors, and so on. I'm going to read a poem, not mine though, by one of my favorite poets, Gerard Manley Hopkins. He was a 19th century Jesuit priest, English Jesuit priest, who wrote these passionate poems to Jesus. I was like, I don't know, but they're so raw. So I thought I'd share one of his raw poems with you. He's just a brilliant poet, so he'd probably be rolling in his grave right now. He is rolling in his grave. But I'm going to give you his poem called The Windover, about his passions of the Lord. Can I hear an amen?
Amen.
I'm not very religious. All right.
The Windover. I caught this morning, morning's minion, kingdom of daylight's dauphin, dapple dawn-drawn falcon in his riding of the rolling level underneath him steady air, and striding high there, how he rung upon the rein of a wimpling wing in his ecstasy, then off forth on swing, as a skate's heel sweeps smooth on a bow bend, the hurl and gliding rebuffed the big wind. My heart in hiding stirred for a bird, the achieve of, the mastery of the thing. Brute beauty and valor and act. Oh, air, pride, plume, here, buckle. And the fire that breaks from thee, that's the Lord, from thee, then, a billion times told lovelier, more dangerous, oh, my chevalier. No wonder of it. Sheer plod makes plow down Cillian shine, and blue bleak embers, ah, my dear, fall, gall themselves, and gash gold vermilion. Mary Hopkins. All right. All right. Time for a racy poem. Are you ready for a racy poem? Okay, two racy, well, one not racy to intro the racy poems. In a series of love spells that I was writing a bit ago. Love spell number 8. I will watch you watch me. I will be the faintest beat, the tannest shade of heart, a pulse imperceptible. If your house has a middle post, I am it. If your lake ripples only once, I am the sand grain dropped in it. Love spell number 6. They say if you wake wet in the night, the devil's been visiting you. How else to define your grip of the bedpost? The steam your thighs give to the room's eyeless heat. Blame the pepper in the red stew if you want to. The meat marinating by the kitchen's cool counter. To catch someone, all a girl's got to do is place the steak she's fixing to feed them between her legs when she's bleeding. Give that to them for a love so fierce, they'll murmur, "Sweet Jesus," then forget about God. The Lord has nothing to do with this. Now, this is a recipe I heard, actually, conveyed between people. I've never tried it myself. But if someone wants to try it, let me know, email me with the results. I would be very happy. It will be useful in my research. And a poem about a long-distance relationship for Patrick, called "The Dear Remote Nearness of You." Our journey has been strange, each in the other's hand, almost and sometimes not. Across the space you seem to pixelate a dream, a breakage and a scream. Your simulacrum since the last I held you fast, en chair et en os, one joint against the next, your hand soft on my neck, your clavicle and chest, my breast against your breast. And thus 3 years have passed, like water, air, like glass, on dusty roads in plains, on mountaintops, and me against the you I thought you were, and you against your sense of me, and suddenly, and still, and yet, some space above it all for falling free, while somehow tied, and knotted to a ribbon, a small boat on the ocean, an oar, and open sea. Time for 2 more? Yeah, okay. I'm going to read 2 more poems. And both of these poems were written in the wake of the 2010 earthquake in Haiti. I'm Haitian. I'm a United Station, as I was telling the students earlier. And after the earthquake, there was a great deal of coverage in all kinds of media on the web. And often I heard Haiti referred to as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. It was repeated, you know. People would say Haiti, poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, as if it were its last name or the only metric by which we could understand or assess Haiti. And I found it problematic as a Haitian. I am born in Haiti, I visit all the time, and Haiti is a poor country, but it is a country also rich in a whole bunch of other things, in the arts, and the notion of family, and struggle, human rights struggles, and civil rights struggles. And so I felt I needed to address that label. So this is the poem. Poem for the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. O poorest country, this is not your name. You should be called flame and beacon, almond and bougainvillea, garden and green mountain, villa and hut. Little girl with red ribbons in her hair, books under arm, charmed by the light of morning. Charcoal seller in black skirt, encircled by dead trees. You, country, are the businesswoman and the eager clerk, the grandfather at the gate, at the crossroads, with the flashlight, with everything in sight. And the last poem I will read is entitled Intersection. And about 300,000 people lost their lives as a result of the earthquake. I was asked by a magazine to contribute a poem that would support relief efforts in Haiti. And I found that I had a hard time writing the poem right after the earthquake, in part because I felt that those people didn't have to lose their lives, and those lives were lost as a result of structural violence, infrastructure problems in Haiti, a compromised government that was unduly influenced by international interests, overcrowding, and everything that quote-unquote developing nations and global south sites suffer from. And I just thought, it was hard to wrap my head around that large a number of deaths and people I was connected to. So I found that I had few words, and this is the poem that I contributed. And I'm going to be helped to present this poem to you by dancer Brianna Bradley, one of the co-presidents of the MCLA. So happy that she's going to be helping me share this poem with you. And I'm going to move the podium. Intersection. The earth shook. A portal opened. I walked through it. The earth shook. A portal opened. I walked through it. The earth shook. A portal opened. I walked through it. The earth shook. portal opened. I walked through it. Earth. The earth shook. A portal opened. I walked through it. The earth shook. A portal opened. I walked through it. The earth shook. A portal opened. I walked through it. I walked through it. I walked through it. Ash. The earth shook. A portal opened. I walked through it. I walked. The earth shook. A portal opened. I walked through it. The earth shook. A portal opened. I walked through it. I walked through it. I walked through it. I walked through it. The earth shook. A portal opens. I walk through it. Thank you.